Okay, welcome. I will call the meeting of the trustees of trust funds for July 11, 2023 to order. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of our June 21st meeting. Do I hear a motion?
I will move to approve.
Second.
Okay, any corrections, additions, deletions, any changes at all? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So, we have 3 scholarships to discuss with our guest this morning, Kathleen Dwyer. Let's take the easy ones. Let's take these in reverse order. So on the Flynn Trust, what we decided at the last meeting was we had been holding the funds that had been received from Jack, and we wanted the check was about to go stale, so we deposited those. And I know you wanted to talk about having some type of memorialization or something in writing that would talk about the trust. Well, our thought was with the monies that we receive in a bequest, that unless the purposes or something of the bequest are improper, we're just going to accept them, and then we'll work with you on whatever you want to do with a document that can go to the school department telling them what the purposes are. But we don't think that we need to go through an exercise of creating an entire trust agreement with the estate of the deceased person. So I know you and I talked about that briefly on the phone. So I think you said that you had something in mind and you might bring along an example.
Well, and I should have brought the will language. I don't know if you have it, but
I
so
have
Tom and I
that.
talked. It just makes me a little nervous that nothing gets formalized about it. And I just had one question. When you get monies like that, do you not have a suspense account you can put stuff in?
You probably could, yeah.
Which would solve that problem, of having to hold on to checks. But anyway, I did just create, I think the will said that they wanted it to be called the Alice G. and Thomas Flynn Trust. So the
Right.
will did refer to that. And they wanted it for somebody who was going to be studying political science, which
Correct.
would imply a 4-year degree. And so, and that they had to be a Portsmouth High School graduate. So it did have those 3 things. So do you have any objection to just doing it like a scholarship trust and Jack can sign it on behalf of the estate? Or we could create just a memos kind of make me.
Well, this is just my thought, and I'll welcome the thoughts of Peter and Dana, but the way I look at it is that the deceased, or the person who created this trust is a deceased, and so at best we're negotiating with another person who.
I have talked to Jack, who says do with it. He had no inkling or desire to be involved in anything.
He has no inkling, yeah. Well,
Sending the check, though he would do whatever we
okay.
asked him to do.
Well, here's what I want to avoid.
So I pray and.
Is opening up a negotiation with somebody. Now, Jack, not going to be a problem, but the next person may say, well, I want to micromanage the language, and then we get into this limbo state where, because we've opened up a negotiation on the terms of whatever this is going to be, and we have to go back and forth with somebody, then the money does get held up. So my vision is we have dozens of scholarships that were created by someone's will or trust without having these type of agreements.
Some of which over the years have caused some difficulty, particularly when we went through the consolidation process. We would just have old handwritten documents, old squibs from wills. So that was my concern when we spoke. I just want something a little better than some of those old ones.
Okay, so let me just give you my idea, and then let's hear from everybody. But so my thought was that our job is to basically collect the money, manage the money, and make sure we disperse it for the purposes, but not to make the decision on who gets it. So I like the idea of any scholarships to having a little one paragraph that's available to the school department, that would be available to students who want to apply for specific scholarships, that would say, this is the name of the scholarship, here's, the purposes for what it was created, here are the terms that limited or direct where it will go. And that's just the guiding principle. We don't have to get into having something beyond that.
The school department does have that, and it's all online.
Yeah, well, you
Navi.
had said that you might bring in
Yeah.
an example of that, so.
I didn't bring it with me, though I know Peter, you went over and talked about the renewable ones, but for every scholarship, it describes the scholarship, if there's any requirements such as writing a essay or submitting grades or financial need. So they're all in there, and once a year, probably at least once a year, if there's any changes, I go over those with Brittany Lind, who's the current college guidance counselor and who manages all this. So when a new one's created, the information goes over there, we actually send the document, and then the website is updated on. So for instance, if we sent this, whatever, the instructions on this would be, it has to be a graduating senior, accepted in a four-year program, intending to study political science, and that it can, here's the concern I have vis-a-vis you guys. This one limits payment out of income only, which doesn't necessarily involve the high school, but it does involve you guys. So when we talk, that's why I just wanted something more formal.
All right. So
Which
this
could be a
this
minimum.
doesn't say anything about a four-year scholarship.
Well, I think because of the political science,
Yeah.
Well, but,
Yeah.
Great Bay has,
what's that?
no,
Yeah.
some two-year schools
like-
have political science programs.
we
Well,
could just
no,
say
but-
post-secondary.
No, but what I'm saying, it says here that the operative line, it said the sum of $25,000 is given in trust to the city of Portsmouth to be named the Alice and Tom
Flynn.
Flynn Trust in memory of my husband's parents. The income of the trust is to be used for scholarship for students entering their freshman year in college who intend to major in political science. So that tells me it's only for the first year. This
Yeah,
is a
it
1
is.
year. But somehow or other, when Peter was doing his research on the renewables, the Mortimer Scholarship, one of which is renewable, is not even on that list. So,
And they explained that because the confusion of only using the income, that if you gave it $1,000, you weren't going to be able to renew it at that amount because it wasn't.
But that's changed now
Well, it will
on
be,
the Mortimer
hopefully.
one.
It will.
Yeah.
it will. But no, but conceivably,
There'd be not enough money, is what you're saying.
well, no, not, this is the whole point. Conceivably, they could, that was still eligible to be a renewable at 1,000 a year. It would have meant that one student would have got it for 4 years in a row, and then the next opening, et cetera. So we're going to talk about addressing that in the Mortimer one. But, so what your preference is to have some type of a formal trust agreement.
Or something formal beyond sending to Kelly Barnaby the copy of the language out of the,
Why can't you have Jack just sign memorializing what it says and have it be that?
then the only other thing that wouldn't be memorialized unless you want to is how the recipients were to be selected.
Okay. So this doesn't say anything about that.
No, but
How-
we have mechanical things that have to happen
Right.
to get the scholarship out. typically, we, by default, and it's written into most of them, unless the family has some specific reason to sit on the selection committee, it's the principal of the high school, their designee, the college counselor, and the senior class counselor would be the minimum amount of people that would, they would be the people at the high school who would know the kids.
Is there anything that prevents the school department from using those people without having a formal trust agreement?
It wouldn't prevent them, but it wouldn't tell them who. By practice, you know, they get all of the scholarships back, whether it's, you can do like a common application, if you will, for the scholarships, and they have specific ones that have, I need the essay, it goes to Barry Foley if it's the Foley Scholarship. So they get all those where they need to be, they get them all back, and then usually a committee like the one I just described, and others, if it's mandated, they dole out all the scholarships, usually, I think, in one afternoon. And their practice is to be very mindful of all of the kids who have applied, so that, you know, one kid doesn't get 45 awards and one kid who applied who otherwise would qualify gets nothing. So they try to spread the wealth among all the applicants. So, I mean, I just want something formal.
Yeah, well, okay, but what do you think, Dana?
Honestly, I'm a little confused where our jurisdiction starts and ends. You want some formal to basically address what the will says, which I have no problem with. But I don't know if if we should dig into that as trustees. You know,
Yeah,
fine. Maybe you and the school department can do what you have to do from the mechanical end and address it and write it up, and that's fine. We just got to send the money over.
And
Well, so,
And I know your point is well taken about, are you going to get into the negotiating with families? There's kind of two families. One, families who are, that approach us on behalf of someone who has been deceased in their family. I would say far and away most of memorial scholarships happen that way. And then you have these ones, very few, that come by way of a bequest and a will. And then there is nobody to negotiate with, really. You
well,
just-
and that's really what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
But usually a lawyer will, I can't think of anywhere, we just got to check without some lawyer involved, like directly from a family executor or executrix. Can happen, but it's kind of a remote possibility, I think. I wish we got more of these, but.
So part of what informs my approach on this is what we adopted for language when we adopted the
Consolidated.
scholarship policies. And there is one that deals with scholarships regarding, or regarding scholarships requests. And we say, often individuals include provisions in their wills and other estate planning documents contributing to existing scholarship funds or to establish new funds. The City of Portsmouth welcomes those. However, all requests are accepted subject to the policies set forth above. For instance, if the terms of the will provide for an ongoing scholarship in an amount where the request is less than $25,000, we treat it as a sunset scholarship fund. So the policies that we adopted a couple of years ago don't talk about establishing a new document or anything else like that. It just means we're going to look at the terms, and if it's either going to be a sunset one or it's going to be a perpetual one. And
So in this case, for instance, when we looked at it, it's perpetual.
Yeah,
Because it
yeah.
meets
Well,
the
that's what I'm saying.
25. and-
So I'm not inclined to get into a whole process of negotiating trust agreements or trying to get trust agreements signed by attorneys and others, and then you get to the question is, what, can it really be signed by the attorney, or does it have to be signed by the executor of the estate?
Could it just be, in theory, well, it could just be signed by the school department and the trustees? Because to your point, if it's going direct, without any interim steps required?
I know, I'm not,
Or just whatever, we'd have to have something, a transmittal document, or I just want,
yeah, no, yes, my thought was to have either a summary document that you described the school department already has. Do they prepare that, or do you prepare that?
it was, a couple of times in my 37 years here, we've done an exhaustive inventory of scholarships and went under every rock to find every document that memorialized any, and I think there were only 4 we could never find, but they were very, very old, went back to the 1800s.
Right.
So those descriptions were a result of that process, and then and as new ones are transmitted to them, what's to be included it goes with the notice that there's a new scholarship. And periodically, I look at what's on the website to be sure it's accurate.
Okay. Again, I don't want to make this decision, it's a full trustee decision, but my thought would be that if we accept the funds, we're accept them subject to the terms that are in the document, and what your concern could be handled by a simple summary sheet or a letter to the school department saying a new fund has been established, here are the purposes, here are the terms, handle this in the way you would handle any existing scholarship.
I mean, when these go for acceptance to the school board, I always write a memo saying, this is what, they usually have a document to approve, but we could certainly do it just by memo that gets copied to the trustees. And then it also, which is a good forensic trail, it gives the date that the school board acted on it, so, we
What's the school board acts on this?
yes.
What do they do?
They accept the terms of, well, they create if it's not a will, they are the first ones that approve this
Okay,
trust
but
document.
in the case of this one,
Well, it
that
would be
it's
a
will.
notice thing. I mean, there is an old, I don't know if it's old, but on the city side, I think that no funds can be accepted, grants, without city council approval. I don't know if that's changed.
That's
but
not true with the.
We just went through that.
Yeah.
A long time ago, that was an issue. And part of it is, you need a process by which it's formal enough that then the school department knows that, like, they act officially on behalf of the school department, so I'm not comfortable with just sending it to a staff person and say, add this
Yeah.
one.
I have no problem, I like the formality of having it formally accepted, because in essence, the school department is agreeing to conform with the terms.
Correct.
And,
So we
I'm
could
good.
just do bequest by memo, following our acceptance of scholarship guidelines that, has worked very well, by the way. When new people come in, it's just so much easier than the old days.
Okay. What do you say?
I think we should keep it simple. And if the school board does a formal acceptance, why don't you just CC the trustees so that it gets in the file here?
That, that will work. All of these, I want to go to the August, they don't meet in July. I want to get all these on the August school board agenda, if possible,
Okay,
just so you know.
all right. So you'll prepare something, you want us to look at it before you send it to the school?
If you want, I can send you a draft.
Okay, yeah. Again, only because I want to make sure we're not adding
Yeah.
provisions
I'll
that are
pull
beyond
out
what's in the
I
law.
have all the original stuff from Jack.
Okay.
So can I ask a quick question? So every time we get a scholarship, does it goes to the school board for acceptance?
Well, put aside the bequest. Every time there is a new scholarship started, there's a scholarship agreement, and it's signed by the trustees and the school department and the people who establish it. So the school department has to accept it because they're agreeing to give out scholarships in accordance with the terms. That's the value of having a school board meeting where it's formally adopted.
And it also has an unintended benefit of it, those are public meetings, they're on TV, and I like the idea of, promoting the fact
So
that we
are
have
you
scholarships.
making the distinction between a scholarship trust and a
Request.
and a bequest
Yes.
through a will?
Right.
And in the case of a bequest through the will, does that have to be accepted by the school board?
It should be accepted by the
Okay,
school.
and that's what we're
Because
talking about here.
we're voting to accept the money. And, we're, by accepting the money, we're agreeing to disperse it in accordance with the same terms.
I'll give you a good example of why it's, even though we have some older ones, it's impermissible for trustees of public trust funds to administer trusts that are only gender-specific.
Yeah.
So the school board, it would be very
Yeah.
difficult for them to accept that and for you to administer it. So-
And that would go for a bequest as well?
Either.
Okay, got it.
So, but on the front end of the non-bequest one, there's always somebody, it really isn't a negotiation, it's more of them understanding what we can do, and if we can accomplish what people want. And it's usually because any extended conversation, if they want to be involved in the selection, or if they want to set conditions for qualifying, like the essay or financial demonstration of financial need, and a bunch of other things like that.
Okay.
Okay.
So that was the easy one, Tom.
That's the, wow. Well, this is going to be the easy one then. All right, so let's deal with the Carrie Lee McHale, which happens to trigger the same clause you're talking about, but put that aside.
Correct, that's why I want to get that one.
Yeah. So we briefly discussed this, but so as I understand, this whole process started because we know that this was set up back in 1998 by Carrie Lee's parents, and then in 2019, I guess they were tiring of the process of selecting, and the original trust said that they will make a committee consisting of the parents and a peer group.
And Marge Hayner, Carrie's mom, has faithfully done that in all those intervening years.
That's right, yeah. And so, but the 2019 non-judicial settlement agreement didn't address the selection process. It simply said they're now going to give out 10 scholarships of $1,000 a year, which would have the effect of converting this from a perpetual scholarship to a sunset
Correct.
scholarship. And now, this spring, she said, I don't want to even go through that effort anymore. I'd like to wrap this up.
And just by way of background, she got 60 applications to look at this spring. And she's extraordinary. And she's attended every award ceremony and all those things, she brings at one time it was just one, but she would bring the recipient a flower and meet them. And she had plans this year, because she thought it was going to be the last one, to honor all 10, which she did, she and her husband unfortunately died very suddenly of a heart attack in the spring. So this is for, she's gone way above and beyond the initial generosity. And because of the market conditions, it ended up with more money than we thought it would have. We thought it would sunset and be done, but
Yep.
there's still more money.
Right. So how much is?
I can't remember.
I think it's between 3 and 5 to say.
Right.
It's at least 3, I think.
3 to 5 what?
Thousand,
Oh,
so
it's more than that.
now,
All right. Well, so,
It's like 8. I think it's like 8.
so
Is it
she, this year, having gone through all that process, this was her final involvement, and she knows there's money, even though she doesn't have any legal interest in it, she's amenable to having it go to one of the community scholarships.
all right. So, I was looking over the scholarship, the original scholarship agreement, and as well as the non-judicial, and there's actually a mechanism in there for dealing with her circumstance, where somebody is named as part of a selection committee and doesn't want to
No
do
longer
it.
wants to.
Right, and in fact, I think the reasons that she's had the burden all along is that the school department has failed to fulfill their end of that bargain.
Well, and she, even though wanted an endpoint, she was amenable to keep doing it. And then when we discussed it in 2019, and actually those conversations started before 2019, she was okay with the 10, and 10, thinking it was going to be finished. The concern I have about the mechanism, and I don't want to speak for her, I don't know how comfortable she would be having the scholarship go out in her daughter's name without her involvement. The whole point was, I get what you're saying, we could still give it out.
Well, I've actually did a little summary on it, but the thrust of it is that the original scholarship agreement simply says, it envisions that there'd be a point at which one of the parents, one or both of the parents can no longer act on the selection committee, or it actually envisioned that this peer leadership program might not be in existence.
Which it's not.
And exactly, and it says that when that's the case, if both parents can no longer serve on the committee or don't want to serve on the committee, that their son, Michael, would then get to pick. And if he didn't want to serve on it,
He doesn't.
then the principal is required to make the appointments. So the easiest, if her primary motivation is just not having to deal with this anymore, the easiest thing would be to just get an email from her and from Michael saying, don't want to do this anymore. And then at that point, it just becomes, the principal has to, and normally would choose the regular selection committee for the final year's worth of awards.
And we would just run out the money that's there.
Yeah,
right?
which would all be,
Award
would be
everything.
next year because there's less than $10,000. So that's the easiest way of doing this, and, is there any reason why we want to go through the non-judicial process?
Just for the reason I said. I could say you could do that after I retire, but no, I'll contact Marty. And you can have that conversation. This one is unique, it's a very personal and emotional, unlike any other. I can think of one other we had like that. And I know Judy's spent time with Marge also, but I'll call her.
All right,
Thank you, Tom.
what do you guys think?
That's fine.
If it's the provision in the original trust agreement, an email from her and her son, the principal makes a final award of what's left.
And I would, just for the other reasons that we're technically not supposed to be administering single gender instruments, I would like it all paid out next year.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, exactly. So let me just, this is what I was doing yesterday. Go to this issue. So if you want to have a conversation.
Okay,
you can
great,
have that in
thanks.
front of you.
So the lesson here is you can't take the unretired lawyer out of the retired lawyer.
So you think you're retiring, or then it comes up. Okay, so.
Okay, that's,
So I think we do that, and so if she says, you know, my preference would be to go through the exercise of getting this money into a community scholarship, and do you have a, I think you said last time you would be happy to accommodate her wishes.
Yeah, I think in this case here, she's done
No.
more than she's had to do through this whole process.
that's true.
Okay,
And if, yeah, I'm fine either way, and, you know, because I work with you guys so hard on that, you know, I would love to see the community scholarships grow also.
as would I, but
No, I get you,
I'm just
Tom.
concerned about, you know, we went through a long process getting the AG to sign off on melting all these, and, you
No,
know,
I get it.
Okay, all right, good. All right, now, Mortimer.
I went through all the emails, and I think the ones you sent on June 4th are the ones currently before you, if I have the right ones.
That's correct, yeah.
And the one question I had was, and I couldn't find the email, you had the June 2nd first draft, or amended, and then you offered some change, and I couldn't identify what that change was, just so I would know. But you said you incorporated it into,
Yeah, I think the,
It was a spelling error.
Yeah, it was just.
yeah,
technical.
exactly. It was,
Oh,
it
it was
was,
okay.
it was a grammatical one
Okay.
that Dana found.
perfect.
Yeah, so I think the process was that we had this you had prepared a draft, we had a conversation while you were there in which we made some comments. You sent another one, or maybe I redlined it in between, and then, so there should be a,
I think I have the right one,
okay. all
the
right.
right two, I should say.
Okay, all right. So we have an issue that we want to work out
Okay.
based on conversations that we've had about the renewability of them. Do you see any other issues in those drafts?
The only other one I might do is update the balances, because this started in February, so I'd like to have more current balances.
Okay, that's not an issue.
No.
So here's, and I'm going to try to summarize this, but then turn it over to Peter, because he really identified this. So a big issue was making these renewable, and my analysis of each of the trust documents was that the first one, the original 2006 version, doesn't really say one way or another whether it's renewable. Doesn't say it's limited to freshmen. In fact, it says you've got to have already a year of college under your belt in order to be eligible. Doesn't say it's for 3 years, but it doesn't prevent it. So we've interpreted that as saying that it is renewable, but we think there's a value to adding in that in this
Correct.
non-judicial process. The second one specifically says that it is renewable. One of the issues that Peter has identified is the process by which a student in years 2, 3, and 4 would be eligible for continuing the award. And I think we have an understanding that they have to go through the application process. Now, the application process is one that the city is already using the school board is already using for a renewal. The issue that we've identified is how do we ensure that if a person becomes qualified and receives the initial award, that there will be money for that person in years 2, 3, and 4? In other words, this actually it requires some planning by the school department. We can say every year, this is how much money we've received in investment return. But if the school department, if let's say that there was $25,000 available in year 1, if the school department gave out $5,000 scholarships, in year 2, unless the sum change, then they would have to go to those same 5 until one of them didn't qualify anymore. Maybe they only went through a 2-year program or something like that. We're trying to figure out how to ensure that the money is budgeted for multi-year scholarships.
And a lot of it, well, and this all came from that big infusion.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be having this if
Yeah.
we're
I
only
had
talking
a
about.
conversation with Brittany yesterday because I had a student come to me saying, oh, my scholarship's been renewed, and I had nothing. I'm like, all right, let me look into it.
Did Brittany?
And I contacted Brittany, and I said, you know, this student has come in saying that her scholarship was renewable this year. And Brittany said to me she did not fill out the renewable application. They have to fill out the application every year to get the scholarship renewed. So there is a process in play. The student is responsible every year if they want that scholarship to be renewed. So,
Yeah, we understand that.
And
Okay.
I don't have a problem with that.
yeah.
As long as it's, they don't have to qualify again. As long as they meet these things,
Though they still have to be in college, that's the only
yes,
qualifier.
yes.
Well, no,
My-
they still have to meet the same.
My point is, can I just
Sure.
finish my thought before I forget it, which I might, is that when they put in that renewable application, when the trustees say there's $25,000 and give them the pot, I think that Brittany takes in consideration, I've got the student that's come in for the renewable. I think she looks at that and takes it out of that funding. In other words, the process will still be the same. The trustees determine how much is available. That gets pushed out to the school. Brittany knows, because she has the renewable forms and she has the current applications, who's coming in for what, and works with that way on their end. That's my interpretation.
That's how, my understanding, how it's always been.
So that's perfect.
I mean, I'll give you an example. My own daughter, one of the aforementioned mother of my grandchildren, failed to reapply for the Gray Scholarship, and I made her pay the extra $1,000 that she lost because she didn't apply on time.
You are tough.
And one of the things in talking to Brittany, they get their current email address because kids can move.
Sure.
Correct.
If
And,
they change schools, the school email changes.
yeah, so that this way here, January 1st, they get an email and says, you must fill this out and get it back. And the only change in the form was they'll have to add Mortimer to it because it lists the scholarships that are renewable.
Yeah.
All right, so just to be clear, well, first of all, did I summarize
Yeah.
your concern? Okay.
Yeah.
So just to be clear, is there a value to having, I guess, can we rely on the fact that the current system deals with this?
The renewability application, yes, I'm pretty
Yeah.
confident
Right.
about that.
Well, what I'm getting at, though, is when somebody gets an award in his or her freshman year, knows they still have to apply, but are they going to be assured that they'll get the same amount in the second year, if they do apply and go through that process and the money hasn't been given to somebody else? That's what we're trying to...
Well, I think it would depend what we write, what we come to agreement on with the AG's office.
The other thing, though, is, Tom, as we're looking at, before we tell the school department how much there is, we can adjust that as long as we still aren't giving out more than the income that is earned. And
Yeah, no, so Peter and I actually talked about this because we were trying to figure out how to solve this. One concern I have is I don't want to put a burden on Judy to have to, in essence, manage who gets how much money. I'd rather have something in the agreement that says that the school department has to
Budgeted.
budget the amounts that they're told are awardable to ensure that students who comply with the application process will receive their scholarships in subsequent years.
Well, what if there was language in this agreement that said the renewability would, this isn't the exact language, but so long as there was sufficient income, it would be renewable in the same amount.
But the concern of that is that the school department could just decide they want to give it out to, they want to spread it out.
Well, I think, Peter, when you and I met, we did some calculations and figured out, and maybe that needs to get in here,
well,
that if we had, I forget what you said, we could help 5 kids.
I started off at $2,000. And if you do that, by the time you get to year 4, you would have that amount of money. And based on what we have now for return, that would be able to be done.
And we used a very conservative amount
Yeah, we did.
of return. You know what? Rather than reinvent the wheel, I can call the Charitable Foundation, because about 10 years ago, maybe, roughly, they used to have a ton of scholarships, and this is where we kind of patterned our 25,000 off of, and they wanted to have fewer but more generous renewable scholarships so kids and families could plan. And I just asked, I can find out how they do it and what language they use, if that would be helpful.
Sure,
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Because I think I think their minimum now is about 2,500 a year that they, and kids know. And I think that's what we're trying to accomplish, the same
Right.
thing. So I'll call and see how they do it.
Okay.
And I'll give you the information and you can wordsmith it. Because you will anyway.
Okay, sure. And if they don't have something, I'll try to come up with something and circulate it. I don't know if we'll be able to get this all done for the school board meeting and
Oh, this one you might not be able to get in
Yeah,
before the
okay.
school board meeting, but,
But I'm kind of thinking just, if we just include some language that says that, in its allocation of the available funds on an annual basis, the school board will take into consideration the future years in that would be enough instruction to them to do what they're already doing and save us the trouble. One thing Peter and I had talked about the possibility of saying, okay, we're only going to give out $5,000 the first year and then $10,000. The problem with that is that means that there's going to be a number of years in which we're not giving out monies that we really can be supporting the program. I'd rather have the school department thinking if it's going to be $25,000 and I'm just using 5,000 as a number, but we're going to have 5,000 scholarships, then each year, the first thing they look at is the renewals, and if somebody drops out of school or somebody's in a 2-year program, then that means there's more money to give out to new kids. But it's almost, it's almost like you have 5 slots, and if
That
somebody...
reminds me of futures, Peter.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Tom, you and I'll run some more numbers too.
Okay, yeah.
the numbers would be helpful,
Yeah.
because then we could kind of hone in on a number that's going to be workable.
Okay, but I'll wait to hear from you. I'm going to be on vacation for a couple weeks, but, so you get some time to talk to the charitable people, and then,
And I did tell Susan that, I wasn't going to leave my projects with you guys high and dry. I'm going to have a flexible
you
exit.
just like coming here on
I do.
7:30 in the morning. Okay,
Well, you can bring the baby next time.
He's a very mellow little guy. They're lucky.
all right. And any other questions on the Mortimer one, Peter or Dana?
Nope.
Okay.
All right. Always a pleasure to start my day with you guys.
Thank
And
you very
I
much.
must check all of my pronouns, you people. Bye.
Good luck.
Thanks, Kathleen.
You're welcome.
All right. So next item on the agenda is the Portsmouth Community Scholarships. As I mentioned before our meeting started, I received a call from Susan Morel, and she was unable to make this morning's meeting, and she actually has not connected with the Attorney General's office yet to discuss how we would do that process. So she's asked for an additional month, so I said that's fine. Okay. The TD Bank, you see the new, the latest and the greatest
Yeah,
dashboard, what do you think?
It's good. Do have one question.
Okay.
Hey, it says the fiscal review, first quarter, so I'm confused when it says quarter one, is that, which months are those? Can you tell? Maybe?
I believe they're going on, well, it says fiscal year, so that would,
So our fiscal year ends June 30, right?
Yeah.
So I'm confused.
so fiscal year 2023, yeah, I don't know why she's quarter one. I'll have to ask her.
My guess is that's just
I wonder if
year-to-date.
she forgot to change it,
That should be
quite
quarter
frankly.
4 or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'll question that with her.
Unless that's not on the fiscal year, but on a calendar year.
yeah.
I'm wondering if that's calendar year and she had done
Yeah.
this for the last time and maybe she didn't change it because
Right.
we're now in Q2.
Okay, but separate from that question, though, this is the first one of these we've seen since we had the last meeting with them. Can we tell them that we're now satisfied?
Well, I think I have the same question on the year-to-date. Year-to-date from when to when?
Well, I think, I'm assuming that the year-to-date, this is on the bar chart,
Well, on
all those from the
on-
fiscal year up at the top.
Yeah,
Well, year-to-date performance as of 6:30, I would say it's a calendar year, just looking at, but I'll have her clarify. And
Yeah.
I'll tell her she needs to be consistent for everybody. Either she needs to follow it via the city's fiscal year or a calendar year, and she needs to clarify which one.
I think for our purposes, I'd rather see
Calendar?
calendar year. But,
Yeah, I agree, calendar year
Yeah.
would be preferred.
Okay.
So I will let her know that you prefer to see it calendar year. Okay?
And Kathy, on the bottom right, it has first quarter. And I'm going to assume that's calendar year, and then on the left, it's year-to-date. I just find it curious that she separated out the first quarter from, and not the second quarter.
I honestly feel that she probably forgot to change the Q1 to Q2.
Oh, on that one.
On
Yeah.
that one as well.
I think you're
Yeah.
probably right.
So
Okay.
I will mention to her on the,
I think that's the case, because you remember you said would like to see the last
Right,
quarter.
yeah.
Yeah.
My only other comment, we need to make sure when scheduling trustees meetings early in the month.
I have.
I know both Tom and I got these in the mail yesterday.
I haven't even received mine yet, so I can't tie to it either. I haven't received mine yet. But usually we're a week later, so it probably won't be a problem like next month, hopefully we'll.
But this is dramatic, once we figure out the details, what we need.
Okay. And I will let her know. I'm sure she'll be happy to hear that.
So, are you still going to put together that long-range chart?
The last time we spoke, I thought you had said that this was enough for you. Happy to continue doing that if you would like that,
Well,
because I do it anyways.
right. I'd like to see that anyways. So one of the things that this doesn't, it shows me the amounts that are in the portfolio, and it shows the, what the return has been, but it doesn't show the change in the gross amount of the dollars.
Yeah.
And
The disbursements and the receipts.
I do it anyways for
Well, I
my
know
own
that,
purposes,
so I'm still interested, and as well as,
Yeah.
on an annual basis, I'd still like that one that starts back in 2007.
I've got to get that one up to date. Dana likes that one too, the
Yeah.
history of the, yeah.
Now, I realize that part of the reason that what I'm going to say is true is that we have the Mortimer funds that came in, but I think we're pretty close to where we were before the,
Yeah, only
Market
because we
downturn.
got-
well, yeah, but we were down.
Oh, we were.
A lot.
We were down in the 19s.
Yeah.
And
Couple
so,
of million.
we'd still like to see that.
Okay, that's not a problem. I'll put it on. You wouldn't have gotten it this month anyways, because I didn't get my stuff.
Again, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, all right. Anything else? Any questions on the TD stuff?
No?
Okay, you got some checks for us to
A
sign?
lot of scholarship checks to be signed. These are the first batch to come in. Spread them around.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Holy moly, 6,200.
That was a month where he got like 3 or 4 scholarships.
Fisher College, 3,500.
Which college?
Fisher.
Fisher?
There's a UNH one for 7,000. Oh, and another one for 6.
Wow. I'm telling you, you're talking real money here.
Billion here, billion there. Pretty soon you're talking real money.
This is an odd one, 1,062.50.
Yeah, that was somebody, that was actually an award from last year, but he had deferred, and
Oh.
he let us know that he was deferring, so that he's coming now, and he's going, I think he's going to Temple, is that the one that's going
No,
to Temple?
Worcester,
Oh, Worcester,
Yeah.
WPI?
yeah.
Yeah,
So why is it such an odd amount?
that's what it was, that's how it was divided last year.
lot of different schools.
Yes, a couple of them I had never heard of before.
Like Nova College?
Nova, yeah, that
Fort
was,
Lauderdale.
That's in Florida, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow. Horry Georgetown Technical College, Conway, South
That was a
Carolina.
new one to me.
Never
too.
heard of that one.
Nope.
Howard,
Yeah.
that's cool. Wow, 8,500. Okay, thanks.
How much are we giving out here?
This is about 80,000
$80,000.
of the 200, so I'm sure I'll have another stack in August.
A lot of UNH, that's good.
Yep.
Virginia Tech.
Done. Thank you.
I think it's I'm sure you'll go through
I'm
it.
gonna double check everything before I leave.
Okay, do we have a monthly donation report?
I didn't have any this month.
Nothing this month,
Nothing's come
okay.
in this month.
All right.
Judy, I see you set up a lot of chairs today. Did you expect a lot of public discussion?
These are all my friends,
Oh,
Peter.
my goodness. They're here to support you in your job. All right, well, there being nobody in the public, we'll dispense with public discussion, but we'll open up for any new business or old business. Hearing none, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.